My name's Shaun Burris. I'm one of the hosts of the Shadow Nation podcast. I was a co-host of Extreme Paranormal on A&E. Since the show was canceled, I've done many things in the paranormal, both on TV and off. It all started with investigating people's homes, trying to help them have a better understanding of what might be happening to them and their families. Since then, I've traveled all over the United States looking for the paranormal and documenting everything I can to bring it to the public. I've investigated hundreds of cases over the years. This is one of those documented hotspots known for its paranormal activity. Through my years of research, I earned the name, the GhostMan. Welcome. These are my haunted backroads. Can a house hold secrets? In the wood of its floorboards, the glass of its windows, or in the plaster of its walls, secrets buried deep in the long-forgotten shadows of its hallways. Since the 1800s, the Randolph County Asylum has sat silently on its hill, casting a dark shadow over the small town of Winchester, Indiana. The building now sits empty, but in days past it housed the sick, the dying, and the many unfortunate souls that came to call this ancient monument of the building home. People always say, if these walls could talk, well, these walls do talk. It's said that the souls of the patients from long ago still roam these hollowed halls, and this is their story. It was a house for those who could not take care of themselves, for those who heard voices, who had strange thoughts and did strange things. The house was meant to keep them in, and once they came, they never left. Madeleine Ruse. Some say that down this very hallway, the dead room, reports of shadow people and the ghost of patients from long ago, including the apparition of a woman who decided to meet her tragic end by hanging herself. Are these poor souls trapped, or do they choose to be here at the asylum, still looking for peace that they never found in life? One story is from the owner of the Randolph County Infirmary, Mr. Dan Allen, who says one day while alone in the building, he received a surprise visit from a ghostly guest. Here's Dan's story.
The first night I spent there by myself. I was down in the mechanical room area. I was talking on my cell phone to a friend of mine, and I was afraid to go any further into the basement that I'd lose the connection because I could still see out two windows from where I was in the basement. So I'm standing there talking to him, and all of a sudden I hear somebody walking up behind me real fast. Nobody was there. Nobody's supposed to be there. This person was 5 foot tall, maybe 100 pounds at the most. I could tell it was a guy just by the way he looked, but that was out of the corner of my eye because he was coming up right behind me.
Right.
First instinct was just to lay him out with the back of my elbow. I got about halfway around, and I thought, this is too simplistic. Somebody is playing a joke on me.
Yeah.
And it's probably somebody's wife, and I'm going to lay this person out. So I stopped real quick, threw myself off balance. Well, when I looked back, they were gone. But right before I took my eyes off them swinging, they walked up real quick, and then a half shuffle where they put their feet together, looked down and crossed their hands. Well, this guy had a super thick winter coat on with stuffing coming out. He wasn't transparent or anything. I never saw his face because he had white towels wrapped around his head lengthwise, like he was super cold, but it was 90 degrees out at the time.
Yeah.
But he, at the last second, he looks down, hands crossed, feet together, and stood right behind me.
Ghostly apparitions of the once living are not the only activity known to be experienced at the infirmary. Known by many names throughout the world, but most commonly referred to as shadow people, are said to haunt the halls of this tomb of a building. Eyewitness accounts say that in the darkness, one can see these dark energies crawling down the corridors, following and watching from the shadows. While filming this piece, some of us witnessed the dark entities always staying just outside the light, following slowly and patiently waiting in the darkness. Could these shadow creepers be demons? Drawn to this location's tragic history. It's a mystery, but one thing is for certain. Here at the infirmary, these creatures stalk the living.
He's actually looks like about a foot and a half tall octopus.
Okay.
And he's black. And boy, you talk about something that can book. This guy can run.
Man.
He's really fast. I've seen him shoot in front of a door, then back again. And this other guy that I had get a picture, asked him to find me a picture, said he shot right up a wall and ran across the ceiling.
Ida Gunkel, female, admitted July 27, 1937. Died by hanging self, August 2nd, 1938.
The ghost of Ida Gunkel is said to roam this building. One of the more active spirits in the house. Her lonely room set at the base of the stairs in the basement. Her days were spent staring out the window and watching the shadows pass across the ground. Her lifeless body would be found hanging. Her ghost is said to still roam these halls. And many people who come here experience Ida. Some people have seen the apparition of a woman pulling her hair and clawing at her face. Others have heard crying down the long corridors of the asylum. Historian Ted Martin tells his story.
Ida, when this happened, it was 1938. She was 57 years old. Well, Ida's got syphilis, and it's eaten her brain up. Well, about 2 years before she was admitted, her favorite oldest daughter passed away, and that set Ida over the top.
Sure.
I mean, really set her over the top. And her son wound up putting her in there. Every once in a while, she came running and screaming out of her room, ripping at clothes and running up and down the hallways and stuff. They really don't know what to do with her. Down in the basement, when the place was built in 1899, there's one room down there that has bars in the window, like a jail cell, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And the bars are just in the window. And so they took Ida down there and put her in that room. They would close her in and lock the door. Mrs. Thornburg, who was the matron at the time, she was going by to lock her in for the night, and Ida asked her for a broom. It's in the basement. It's dirty. Why not? So Mrs. Thornburg gave her a broom. Mrs. Thornburg came back by about 5:30 the next morning to unlock her door so she could go get breakfast.
Yeah.
And Ida had taken a strip off of her mattress called ticking and had tied it around that broom and stuck that broom over a couple pipes that goes across the ceiling of her room. She stood on top of her bed, which actually put her head up a little bit above the pipes, tied it around her neck, and stepped off.
Oh, man.
Well, when Mrs. Thornburg found her the next morning, Ida was definitely dead, but her feet was on the ground.
John Oliver Champ, 87, of Virginia, Admitted George W. Cox, 85, of Randolph Charles Corwin, 70, Mary Warren Chapman, Opal, Canada, 50, of Myrtle Christie, 71, Jay County, Indiana. Admitted December 6, 1943.
Some people believe that spirits can have attachments to artifacts. But this story's a little different. Historian Ted Martin says he experienced an eerie happening when he discovered some leftover luggage from a ghostly house guest who apparently refuses to leave the asylum.
And there's a suitcase on the top shelf of this closet. So I got the suitcase down on the bottom shelf, opened it up, and it's full of like 1925, 1935 era ladies' clothes.
Oh, wow.
And so there's my sister standing right there. Her name's Becky. I said, Becky, try some of these on. I've always wanted to see what somebody real looks like in these clothes. I've just seen them on TV and stuff. Well, she kept saying no, and I kept begging her. And she finally told me to shut up.
Yeah.
Well, this is my sister. Yeah, she thinks telling me to shut up's going to happen. It ain't going to happen. So I stayed on her about it. Finally, she said, no, Ted, I mean it. Shut up. I'm trying to record. Mm-hmm. And so I shut up. And I walked out in the hall, and she held the recorder up to my ear. And, of course, I can hear everything that I'm saying, and I can hear her telling me to shut up and all that. But in the background, I can also hear an old lady crying.
Uh-oh.
And I asked her, I said, how'd you do that? I was sitting right here watching you. I know you did that.
Right.
I didn't do it. She said, I didn't do it. So, yeah, I stayed on her a little bit about it. She kept letting me listen to it. And she finally swore to me she did not do that. And then she said, I want you to apologize to that lady that's crying because you hurt her feelings by making fun of her clothes.
Right.
I said, there's no way, Becky. I'm not going to do that. There's nobody here.
Right.
I'm not going to apologize. And finally, I listened to it one more time, and I'm convinced that there's somebody in that closet with me.
Our country is filled with amazing stories of spooks and specters that roam our countryside and fill our minds with the amazing and the unknown. The American ghost story blends fact and history and leaves us haunted by the thought of what could be. Whether you believe or not, one thing's for certain: that credible people have experienced incredible things that forces us to look at the shadows in wonder. Ghost stories like this is what makes many who visit this place say that once you've been to the infirmary, it never leaves you. It's a phenomena that makes for one of the greatest stories of Indiana lore, the legend of haunted Randolph County Infirmary. I'm your host, Shaun Burris, and I'll see you down the haunted backroads.